This is one of the most disturbing stories and images to emerge from Russia's moral collapse under Vladimir Putin's regime, a story that blurs the line between religion, militarism and propaganda. The spectacle of Orthodox priests, Russian Orthodox priests, firing pistols on an FSB shooting range or blessing nuclear missiles is not merely grotesque, it is emblematic of a church that has traded the cross for the Kalashnikov. The video of Metropolitan Hilarion, once one of the most respected theologians in the Russian Orthodox Church, somebody who had studied in Oxford, somebody who I believe I knew, calmly emptying his weapon at a target while wearing noise-cancelling headphones, symbolizes a new kind of clerical perversion, faith retooled for violence. Whether the footage was filmed inside Lubyanka or not is almost beside the point. It testifies to a church so closely aligned with state power that its bishops now mimic the aesthetics and the rituals of the security services. What was once spiritual counsel has become psychological warfare. I'm deeply ashamed of this image of Metropolitan Hilarion, if indeed that is who it is. This militarization of the priesthood did not begin with Hilarion. Patriarch Kirill himself has called Russia's invasion of Ukraine a holy war. He promised soldiers that dying in battle would cleanse them of sin, a promise that inverts the entire moral structure of Christianity. Instead of repentance, he offered indulgence for murder. Instead of compassion, he sanctified cruelty. And now, instead of calling men to lay down their arms, his clergy are taking up weapons and posting the evidence online. For centuries, the Orthodox canon law has prohibited clergy from bearing arms. Even in Tsarist Russia, where priests blessed armies, they did so as non-combatants. Kings laid down their swords before entering church. Monks were forbidden to kill, even in self-defense. And you've got to remember, an Orthodox bishop or a metropolitan is a monk. The moral principle was clear. The priest's hands are consecrated to bless, not to spill blood. That boundary has now been shattered. A church that once offered prayers for peace now trains its clergy on rifle ranges. The historical roots of this distortion lie in the Second World War, when Stalin, desperate for a unifying ideology, rehabilitated the church as a symbol of national identity, and since then orthodoxy and Russian state power have operated in symphonia, church and state marching together, each blessing the other's authority. What began as a marriage of convenience has become a fusion of ideology. Under Putin, the church has not merely blessed soldiers, it has blessed nuclear missiles, describing Russia's atomic arsenal as a weapon in the hands of God. Priests fling holy water at intercontinental ballistic missiles, not to exorcise them but to consecrate them. This is no longer religion, it is idolatry of the state. The scandal surrounding Metropolitan Archbishop Hilarion also exposes the hypocrisy within this clerical elite. His moral downfall, the sexual misconduct allegations, the ludicrous Budapest residence, the political lobbying, the rumours of FSB collaboration, mirrors the corruption of the institution itself, much like the rumours surrounding Patriarch Kirill and the call girls on the yacht. Like the oligarchs whose fortunes they bless, these bishops live in opulence while preaching humility. The church's aim to defend traditional values collapses under the weight of its own moral squalor. The theological damage is profound when priests carry guns, when patriarchs justify war, when missiles are blessed in the name of God, the gospel message of peace is desecrated, Christ's commandment to love one's neighbours, even one's enemy, is replaced by a cult of nationalism. The image of Christ Pantocrator has been supplanted by icons of saints holding rifles. The so-called main cathedral of the armed forces near Moscow, painted in military green and built partly from melted Nazi tanks, resembles a shrine to empire more than a house of prayer. I hope these images and these stories about Hilarion are fake news, are false. I hope somebody can reassure me that this is the case, but certainly the information I'm getting at the moment suggests that is not the case. And as I say, I'm deeply ashamed of my association. I'm deeply ashamed of I'm deeply saddened by the story. This is somebody that I knew. This is somebody who I expected more of. What we are witnessing is not faith, but the weaponization of faith. It is a calculated policy. By fusing orthodoxy with militarism, the Kremlin gives its war a veneer of divine legitimacy. The priest with a gun becomes the spiritual twin of the soldier with a cross on his epaulette, both fighting allegedly for the salvation of Holy Russia. In truth, both are victims of a system that has perverted religion into propaganda. In moral terms, this represents apostasy. To sanctify violence is to betray the gospel. To pacify, to bless nuclear weapons is to deny the sanctity of life. To carry a pistol while wearing priestly robes is to confuse martyrdom with murder. The Church's greatest saints, from Boris and Gleb to Seraphim of Sorov, rejected violence even at the cost of their own lives. The true Orthodox tradition is one of peace, repentance, and suffering love. The icon of St. George. What we see now is the opposite, a cult of force masquerading as spirituality. For ordinary believers, the sight of armed priests is not only shocking but soul-destroying. Many Russians, once devout, have drifted away in disgust, perceiving a moral vacuum behind the gilded icons. They see a church that prays for the state rather than the victims of its wars, that fears losing privilege more than losing souls. The image of Hilarion firing his pistol will be remembered not as a symbol of strength, but as the moment when the Russian Church crossed the line between faith and fanaticism. It shows a clergy that has become an appendage of the security services, a religion that has ceased to be Christian, and perhaps that is the greatest tragedy of all, that the hands once raised in blessing now tremble on the trigger.